The Smith family has unlimited money, and that's exactly why they're miserable. Think about what you actually see when you watch the show. Jerry's unemployed and desperate. Summer's stuck working a dead-end retail job. Beth's holding everything together while quietly falling apart. They look like a struggling middle-class family, but here's what you're missing. Rick can create million-dollar businesses in an afternoon. He turns literal cursed garbage into profitable products. He casually outcompetes the devil himself in a store competition. He destroys his own successful company just because he got bored. The guy has technology that could collapse entire markets and make them richer than countries. So if Rick can make infinite money, why does the Smith family still live like a failing middle-class household? Let's break this down layer by layer. First, we need to look at what's actually visible on screen, what the Smith family's finances look like to anyone watching the show. Let's start with Jerry. In Season 1, Episode 9, Jerry's entire storyline revolves around trying to feel important at a place called Needful Things, basically an antique store run by the devil. And the key detail here? Jerry's not working. He has no job. He's not bringing in any income. Instead of contributing financially, he's spending his time getting a cursed microscope that temporarily makes him look smart and successful. But even when Jerry experiences this brief rise to prominence, it produces absolutely zero financial benefit for the family. He gets validation. He feels good about himself for once. But there's no paycheck, no career advancement, and no actual money. The moment the curse ends, he's back to being completely unemployed and useless. Jerry isn't just failing to contribute. He's actively a financial liability disguised as moral authority. He acts like he has opinions about how the family should function, but financially, he's dead weight. Throughout the series, even when Jerry does have employment, it's always precarious, low-status work that barely keeps them afloat. The family's financial stability has nothing to do with Jerry and everything to do with surviving, despite him. Now let's talk about Summer. In this same episode, Summer actually gets a job at Needful Things. Finally, someone in this family is working, right? Except here's the problem. It's a minimum wage retail position with zero benefits and no real future. Summer's working for the literal devil, and even he's not paying her well. But believe me, it gets even worse. Summer doesn't just work at the store. She becomes essential to its success. When Rick opens his competing business, Curse Purge Plus, right across the street, Needful Things unfortunately starts failing. The devil can't compete with Rick's science, so what does he do? He uses Summer's labor and ideas to what? You're right, to pivot the business. And when he eventually sells the company for what's implied to be a massive profit, Summer gets nothing. No equity, no bonus, no profit sharing. She's fired immediately after the acquisition. Now let's think together about what that means. Summer generated real value for this business. She helped it survive Rick's competition. She was part of the strategy that made it sellable, and she walked away with exactly $0. Like, none. That's not just low-paying work. That's pure exploitation. Summer has no financial leverage, no ownership, and no path to actual wealth, despite being genuinely competent and hardworking. Then there's Morty, and this is where things get genuinely uncomfortable. Morty doesn't have a job in the traditional sense, but he absolutely performs labor. He's Rick's assistant on every dangerous, traumatic adventure. He risks his life constantly. He's been physically and emotionally scarred by experiences that would break most adults. And he gets paid exactly nothing for any of it. In fact, it's worse than nothing. Morty is academically dependent on Rick. His grades are terrible because he's always being pulled out of school for Rick's adventures. In later episodes, we see that Morty literally can't succeed academically without Rick's help. Rick has made Morty dependent on him intellectually, which means Morty has no path to financial independence through education or career development either. This is child labor with extra steps. Morty provides value to Rick. He's the Morty waves that hide Rick from detection. He's the emotional anchor. He's the sidekick that makes adventures possible. But Morty receives no compensation, no training that would help him outside of Rick's world, and no autonomy. He's trapped in a system where his labor is essential but, you know, worthless. And finally, let's talk about where they live. The Smith family house is aggressively normal. It's a standard suburban home in a standard suburban neighborhood. There's nothing about it that suggests even a bare sign wealth. No luxury cars in the driveway, no renovations, no signs of financial comfort. This is what you see when you watch the show. A family that looks financially average at best and struggling at worst. Jerry as a father literally contributes nothing. Summer's working for scraps. Morty's being exploited, and they're all living in a house that screams middle class on the edge of breaking. But here's where it gets interesting, because what you see on screen is only half the story. Let's talk about what you're missing, the absolute insanity of how much wealth Rick can generate. In episode 9, Rick doesn't just open a business. He creates Curse Purge Plus in what appears to be a single, you heard it right, single afternoon. He identifies a market need, develops a scientific solution to curse removal, sets up a storefront, and immediately starts stealing customers from needful things. That's like an instant market domination. And you know what's interesting? The product works. Rick's curse removal is scientifically sound, effective, and scalable. He's not scamming people. He's providing a legitimate service that's better than the devil's magic. Within hours, he's created a business that could be worth millions if he wanted to scale it or sell it. But he doesn't. Because Rick doesn't care about money. Let's really sit with this for a second. Rick goes head-to-head with the actual devil in a business competition and wins. The devil has supernatural powers, infinite time, and literally runs on making deals. That's his entire existence. And Rick, using nothing but science and spite, completely crushes him. Needful Things starts hemorrhaging customers. The devil is forced to reinvent his entire business model. He has to pivot, rebrand, and eventually sell the company just to survive Rick's competition. One guy with a garage full of equipment outperforms a supernatural entity with millennia of experience. And that's not just wealth creation. That's a brutal market collapsing power. Rick can identify any business, any industry, any economic system, and dismantle it with literal science. He's not just rich in potential, he's an extinction-level economic event. Here's another thing you might have missed. Rick's entire business model at Curse Purge Plus is taking cursed objects, things that are literally worthless or dangerous, and removing the curses to make them valuable again. He's turning garbage into functional, sellable products. In one episode, we see cursed items that give people temporary abilities or success, but with horrible consequences. Rick's technology removes the consequences while keeping the benefits. That's the alchemy of it. And that's creating value from nothing. And what's cool? He does it casually, like it's boring. And you know, if Rick just wanted to, he could scale this. He could create an entire industry around curse removal, product rehabilitation, or supernatural problem solving. He could franchise it. He could patent the technology. He could build an empire. But he doesn't, because the moment Rick gets bored, he shuts it all down. And that's exactly what ends up happening, right? Like, by the time we get to the very end of the episode, Rick has completely won here. Needful Things is basically falling apart, the whole operation is failing, and the devil at this point is just absolutely desperate, scrambling, trying anything he can to stay in control. Rick has achieved total market dominance. His business is successful, profitable, and could continue making money indefinitely. So what does Rick do? He walks away. He just weirdly stops. The business closes. All that potential wealth evaporates because Rick doesn't care. And the thing is, he wasn't doing any of this for the money. Like, that was never the point here. He was doing it to prove a point, to straight up embarrass the devil, to humiliate him, and at the end of the day, just to win. And, my dear followers, this is what unlimited money can look like. Rick can generate wealth at will, dominate any market, and outcompete supernatural forces. But money has no meaning to him, so he destroys value as casually as he creates it. Understand this. The Smith family isn't broke because they don't have access to wealth. They're broke because Rick refuses to let wealth matter. And that brings us to the real answer. The reason the Smith family lives like they're struggling isn't because they lack money. It's because having unlimited access to money breaks everything. So here's honestly the best way to think about Rick, right? He's basically a walking trust fund that can just revoke itself at any moment. And the family knows this. They know that if there's ever a financial problem, like any problem at all, Rick can just step in and fix it instantly, no questions asked. Like, need money? Rick can make it. Need a business? Rick can build it. Need resources? Rick can science them into existence. But here's a tricky part. They also know Rick won't. Or if he does, it'll be on his terms, for his reasons. And he'll destroy it the second he gets bored. There's no stability, no planning, no long-term security. The family can't build anything because Rick might blow it all up tomorrow, literally, or financially. This is why Jerry doesn't work. Like, literally, why would he? Anything Jerry could earn through normal employment is meaningless compared to what Rick could generate in an afternoon. Jerry's best career day couldn't compete with Rick's worst lazy Sunday. So Jerry doesn't try. He's financially irrelevant, and he knows it. Summer's job at Needful Things is the same. She's working retail for minimum wage while living with someone who could make her a millionaire instantly. But she can't ask Rick for that. And even if she did, it wouldn't mean anything. Any wealth Rick gave her could vanish the next day. So she works a pointless job that gives her the illusion of independence, even though she's completely dependent on Rick's whims. Beth is really the one holding everything together here, but she's doing it emotionally, not financially. The family's stability, when you really think about it, has almost nothing to do with income or savings. It's about managing Rick's chaos, day in and day out, and keeping everyone from slowly falling apart. So Beth isn't the breadwinner in this situation. She's damage control. And here's the thing, even if Rick made them all rich, it wouldn't matter. The family's problems aren't financial. They're emotional, psychological, and existential. Jerry's insecurity doesn't come from being unemployed. It comes from being irrelevant. Summer's frustration isn't about low wages. It's about being powerless. Morty's trauma isn't about money. It's about being used. Rick could give them infinite money tomorrow, and nothing would change. Jerry would still feel worthless. Summer would still feel exploited. Morty would still be trapped. Beth would still be holding everything together while quietly falling apart. Because, let's face it, money doesn't buy respect. It doesn't buy you purpose. It is not capable of providing you emotional safety. And in a family where one person has infinite resources but zero responsibility, money just becomes another tool of control over others. Every family member plays a role in this system, and this exact system is what keeps them stuck. Rick has infinite capital but refuses responsibility. Beth stabilizes the chaos but can't escape it. And Jerry's a financial liability disguised as moral authority. Summer's exploited labor with no leverage. And the system works because Rick is both the villain and the safety net. He's the reason the family survives financially. And he's also the reason no one else can grow. The family can't plan for the future because Rick might, literally erase it. They can't build wealth because Rick makes wealth meaningless. They can't become independent because Rick's existence makes independence impossible. This is what unlimited money looks like. Not penthouses and caviar brunches. Not freedom, just dependence, stagnation, and misery. So guys, we're finally narrowing in on the answer here. Here's the real answer to the question. How much money does the Smith family have? Infinite. And zero. All at the same time. They have access to unlimited wealth through Rick, but that wealth can't be converted into security, planning, or independence. They live like a failing middle-class household because Rick's refusal to engage with financial responsibility makes traditional wealth impossible. Rick and Morty isn't really about sci-fi adventures or multiverse chaos. It's about what happens when money stops being the thing that fixes your life. It's about a family trapped in a system where infinite resources create infinite problems. The Smith family has unlimited money, and that's exactly why they're miserable. So what do you think? Is Rick's refusal to care about money the family's biggest problem? Or is it actually what's keeping them together? Let me know in the comments! And see y'all soon, people!